So you've got yourself a hardware wallet and suddenly the vendor that you used to trust implements something worrisome. Perhaps there's potential for tracking or censorship or even seizure of your funds. How do you migrate to an alternative? Today we're going to take a look at exactly that and provide you the tools and tips to get your funds safe and private. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, big shout out to sponsors of the show, HodlHodl.com. If you're buying Bitcoin and you have a few priorities in mind, like peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, and no KYC, then this is the place to be. You can head over to HodlHodl.com and sign up in minutes with nothing more than an email address. Once you get in, really simple, scroll down, choose your local currency, choose your payment method and your amount, and start viewing offers right away and stack in non-KYC sats. You can also use their peer-to-peer lending platform in which nothing is ever rehypothecated. The link to check out HodlHodl is in the show notes down below. Now, when you do get your hands on those non-KYC sats, you're going to want to secure them with some of the best damn hardware on the market. And I love everything that Coinjoin is doing. The Coldcard Mark IV is awesome. It can be used very simply, but it can also be used in very advanced ways for those of you that are leveling up. I highly encourage you to check that one out. Also, they are pumping out a ton of other great products like the Tap Signer, the Sats Card, the Block Clock, the Open Dime. All of it's great. And if you're really excited, I know I am, coming down the pike here, Coldcard Q1 drops later this year and it looks like an absolute beast. So if you want to reserve that or if you want to pick up anything else that I mentioned, head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for 5% off everything in the store. Now, if you're looking to go beyond just single signature devices for your security setup, I highly recommend you check out Nunchuk.io and their Honey Badger assisted multisig setup. It is all done via your mobile device. It's super easy to set up. So you basically have multiple devices securing your stack. You can use Coinkite products like Nunchuk, their Tap Signer, as well as the Coldcard. And you can also use a variety of other hardware options out there. And furthermore, baked into this is an inheritance plan, an assisted inheritance plan, so that you know your next of kin will get access to your sats should anything happen to you. So it gives you that peace of mind and it's super easy to use. I've done a full tutorial on it. And finally, one of my favorite things about this is that it also requires no KYC, no personal information, so that you know there's not a honeypot of information out for somebody to potentially get a hold of. So check them out, nunchuk.io and their Honey Badger program. And finally, big shout out to start9.com, your sovereign computing solution. I love what these guys have made and what they continue to build upon. You can basically get pre-made devices to run your digital life. So your Bitcoin stack, Bitcoin Core, Lightning, mempool.space, Join Market, all those great things. You can also host your own data, passwords, files, photos, all that stuff. You can furthermore host things like Nostr relays and Nostr clients. So be sure to check out start9.com. They have some beginner kind of entry-level devices, as well as the Start Server Pro, which is the beefiest option they offer, so you can really host your life on that thing. So again, start9.com. And finally, if you're diving through all of my content, whether it be this tutorial or others, and you find that the free content online is not quite enough, you need a little bit of additional hand-holding, you can book me for personal one-on-one online sessions, an hour at a time. And you can just do that through my website, btcsessions.ca. Over on the right here, there's an option to book yourself a Zoom or Google Meet. And yeah, we can level you up that way. Anyways, guys, enough of my rambling. Let's dive into the tutorial. So I think it's important that I start off this video by prefacing it with the reasoning for this video, which if you're watching it upon release will be abundantly obvious, but for those that are looking back at this video some point in the future, well, recently Ledger announced that it would have a new feature rolling out in which you could take your seed phrase, your 24 words, and effectively split them up into pieces and upload them to the cloud so that you can recover them later. And it also would require KYC, so ID, identification, all of that kind of stuff in order to recover. There was immediate pushback to this, a lot of worry about how this would work, and potential issues with tracking, with censorship, with in particular the main worry was around seizure of your funds. Could somebody get access to your funds? Well, at the time of recording this, yeah, there's been a lot of coverage of it. There's been a lot of feedback. There's been if I'm not mistaken, a suspension or a delay in the launch of this product. All of that is besides the point. The point of this video is, what do you do if your hardware provider starts doing something you don't like? How do you migrate to something new in a safe, private, and efficient manner? And so we're going to be going through that. And so obviously, you know, I worry anytime I see something implemented in hardware and software that includes things like tracking how you're using your funds, or includes the potential for censorship and, most importantly, seizure of your Bitcoin. We just don't want this to be a possibility at all. And you know, one of the things that allows that to be a potential is if your software and hardware is closed source, aka nobody can actually look at and audit the code of what's going on. And you know, this is the case with Ledger at the time of recording this video. It's you're kind of just trusting that it's doing what they're saying it's doing. And of course, they have been around for a long time, and there's not been a major breach or anything of people's funds. There's been other issues in the past with people's data, but there hasn't been a mass hack of the devices or anything like that. Nonetheless, we're going to be going through kind of the considerations and the actions that you can take to move from any vendor. And I think it's important that people know the steps and know the things to look out for that may not be in their best interests down the line. And so, yeah, we're going to walk through, okay, you got a device, you're using their wallet, their app, their proprietary app, whatever it may be. What's next? And so let's dive into that right now. I think it's important to note that if you're worried about having funds seized because your keys or your seed phrase is in the cloud, then this isn't a simple process of migrating your seed phrase to a different device. Because remember, seed phrases are just like a key. If you make a copy of the key and somebody still has the original, it doesn't mean that they can't still use it. They can still unlock what the key unlocks. And if there's a copy of your key in the cloud, then just having another copy of it on a different device doesn't do anything to increase your security. So in the instance here, if that's your concern, you don't want to just take your seed phrase, get a different device, and then import your old existing seed phrase. That will not do the trick. You need a new seed phrase on a new device, and you need to send to it. So here are the steps that I would follow in order to move from a device that I no longer trust to a new one that I do. Step 1, if you cannot immediately afford a new device, then consider at least using your old device with a new software interface. In this case, Sparrow Wallet is an easy import that you can use. Step 2, get yourself a new device and learn how to use it. Import it into Sparrow Wallet, play, experiment, learn how it works, and back it up. Step 3, create a hot wallet in Sparrow. Move your funds from the old device to this hot wallet and use the Coinjoin function to increase your privacy moving forward. Step 4, move the funds from Coinjoin into your new hardware wallet, and this can be done in an automated fashion so that you don't even have to think. It will just end up where it's supposed to at the end of the day. If privacy isn't as much of a concern to you, you can omit the Coinjoin step and move directly from your previous device into your new device. No need to create a hot wallet and have that interim step. Okay, so here I am on my desktop and I've got Ledger Live and I've got my Ledger plugged in and everything, and I put a little bit of demo funds on this. And so, you know, let's say I hear there's some new feature coming out to which to me doesn't sound like a feature I would like to partake in. Well, in this instance, again, and I'm just using Ledger as an example because this is kind of the current news, but please input literally any vendor that you can purchase a hardware device from and that may have a proprietary wallet. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, all right, more or less, without jumping through a ton of hoops, I pretty much have to plug in this device and I have to use this software to update, to keep my device updated. And I also have to use this software to initialize it in the first place, to set it up. And again, there may be, depending on the wallet you're using, there may be variations of that, but if it's not easy to set up without their proprietary software, then most people are more or less shoehorned into using Ledger Live. Okay, fair. So what do I do at this point? You know, maybe I've got a bunch of savings sitting on this device and maybe I'm worried about using it and I want to migrate. Well, first things first is, as long as you don't want to do more updates moving forward, the first thing you can do is actually use alternative software. You do not have to use Ledger Live. And in a lot of instances, when there is an app that is the official app for a particular wallet, you actually don't have to use them unless updating the firmware or initializing the device. So if you want to migrate to something else, that can actually help a little bit in the interim. So you can be at least away from the proprietary app, which you may not trust anymore. Okay, so Ledger Live, goodbye. Okay, so we're out of that. What can we use? So there's plenty of options here. This is something called Sparrow Wallet. Now, if you haven't used Sparrow Wallet, I highly recommend checking out and learning about it. It is it gives you a lot of granularity and a lot of control, and it shows you a lot of stuff that you may not see in the basic interface of Ledger. It can also be a little bit intimidating your first time using it, but that's okay. You don't have to fully move away from Ledger Live as you start to tinker with Sparrow Wallet. You can run them side by side. So obviously I just had Ledger Live open. My Ledger is still quote unquote linked to it, or if I log in, I can see my balance and interact with it. I can also use Sparrow Wallet. So let's see how we would do that. By the way, my Ledger is plugged in right now. I'm assuming if you are watching this video, then you may be using a Ledger. But if you're not using a Ledger and you're using some other device, the steps are going to be largely the same. So you're going to go File, and you're going to hit New Wallet. And you're going to give it a name. So I'm going to give this is like Ledger Nano S Plus. You can name it whatever. I'm just going to do this and I'm going to say demo so I can delete this later. Anyway, so I give the wallet a name. Okay, I'm going to hit create wallet. It's going to take me to this screen. Now there's a lot of stuff in front of you. Don't worry, you don't have to know everything that's going on here. You just need to know the basics. All right, it's a single signature. I'm not doing any fancy multi-sig things here. I don't need to worry about the script type and changing it and all that. More or less, I should I'll mention it. There's a drop-down menu here, okay? If you're in Ledger Live and your addresses start with BC1, you're likely using native SegWit, in which case you don't need to change anything. So by default, you can just leave it and not do anything. Now, if your addresses in Ledger start with a 3, you're going to be clicking on nested SegWit, and very unlikely if they start with a 1, you'd be clicking on legacy. But more or less, odds are if you're watching this, you're not going to touch anything with script type. You'll know that something is awry if you don't touch it and then you load it up and you don't see a balance. It's just checking the wrong type of addresses and is unaware of your balance. So don't freak out. Okay, so what we've learned so far is, do nothing. Down at the bottom now, you have a ledger, it is plugged in. You're going to make sure you enter your PIN on your device, which I'm doing right now really quickly. And you also want to make sure that you have the Bitcoin app open. And this is specifically for Ledger. So you're going to go to the app that says Bitcoin and you're going to hit both buttons. Mine is already open here and it just says Bitcoin is ready on the screen. If you're unfamiliar with that navigation, I will link to my Ledger tutorial down below. I'm going to click now in Sparrow. It says connected hardware wallet because we have a connected wallet. We're going to click on that. We're going to hit scan. And look, it pops up right away. Hey, there's your Ledger Nano S Plus. I'm just going to hit import key store. It loads up all this information. I don't need to do anything with it. I'm just going to leave it and I'm going to hit the apply button down in the bottom right. And then if I want to, I can add a password. And what this password protects is, it doesn't protect the funds. The device is meant to protect the funds. This is meant to protect the interface. So what that means is you don't want somebody going on your computer, opening up this app and seeing your balance. This is why you would add a password. You don't have to do this. For this video, I'm not going to. Okay. And guess what? Congratulations. That's it. You are now using your Ledger with Sparrow. It's all linked up. Everything is fine. If you want to go back to Ledger Live, you absolutely can. But now you have access to everything. So let's just quickly take a look at what's in front of us. I go to transactions and you can see I've previously used this device for a couple demos. So that's why there's old transactions here. But hey, there's the same balance that I had in Ledger Live and it's all in front of me right here. I've got a receive screen, exact same thing you would probably see in Ledger Live. Very similar, looks a little bit different, but nonetheless, you have a QR code that can be scanned. You also have an address that you can copy and then paste into a message to somebody. They'll be able to send you money. Furthermore, you're able to give a label to this address so that when you receive funds, you know where it came from. All right, what about the send screen? Very much the same here. You basically have the ability to paste in an address. You can give it a label as to where you're sending it to, and you can put in the amount that you're sending, either in sats or in full Bitcoin if you want to use decimals. You also have a fee slider. It looks a little bit different in Ledger, but instead of high, medium, low, I think they say in Ledger, you basically just have a slider, and you can slide up and down based on how fast you want it to go. And it'll say, okay, this is a high priority transaction at the moment. This is medium priority. This is a low priority, meaning how fast will it go through? Okay, so you can kind of find the sweet spot wherever you like. All right, and then when you fill that in, it will let you know what your fee is going to be. And that's more or less it. So you basically have your main screen that shows your balance. You have your receive screen for receiving funds, and you have your send screen for sending. And that's all you really need to know. And then you can start learning a little bit about some of the other options here in Sparrow, but it at least migrates you away from using Ledger Live or whatever proprietary software you were previously using. And in this instance, what I'll say is if you're worried about privacy, odds are, or at least in terms of what you want to bank on, there's a possibility that your receiving addresses may have already gone back to the server of the proprietary software you were using. So if you're using a ledger, there's a possibility that they know of all of your addresses and a general idea of how much you're securing with their device. So this won't necessarily help with that, and that's why you might want to migrate fully. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into the next section, which is getting money out of the ledger and into your own hands with a different device. Now, one other note, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, of course, there are other options that you can do this with, all of which you can import things like your ledger to. And so some of these, I mentioned this one off the top of the show, Nunchuk, it doesn't have to be used in that multisig setup. You can use it as a single sig option, and you can use it with your ledger on your desktop. You can also use Spectre, which you can also get for desktop. You can use Blue Wallet, also available on desktop and mobile. And I believe you may have to actually plug into your phone to use that. Don't quote me, but it's still an option. And Ledger also does work with Blockstream Green, both desktop and mobile, the last I checked. So there's just a handful of other options, just so you're aware, but let's jump forward now. Okay, so we have our ledger imported to Sparrow. We're no longer using Ledger Live, and we can still interact as we always did. But now perhaps you have a new device and you'd like to migrate your funds to that. And perhaps maybe you like Sparrow and you'd like to manage that other hardware device with Sparrow Wallet. Well, you can actually have multiple devices allocated to Sparrow Wallet in the same manner, and you can see all of them simultaneously, so you can send from one to the other. So I'm going to go File, I'm going to open up a wallet. Now the wallet I'm opening is actually a hot wallet, and so that means that the keys to this wallet reside on my computer itself. All right, I use it for tutorials all the time, and so you know that just so you're aware, I'm not using a hardware device. However, you can manage your Coldcard, your tap signer, and a variety of other hardware devices from Sparrow Wallet, and you can switch between them. There are tabs up at the top of the wallet, so I can go, okay, there's my ledger, and then I can go click, there's my tutorial wallet and its balance and its previous transactions. So I can actually just switch back and forth between them. I can have multiple wallets open at the same time, which makes it very easy to send from one to the other. So let's click on my tutorial wallet here, which could just as easily be a Coldcard, and I'm going to hit receive. Okay, I'm going to type in a label of where this is coming from. I'll just call it Ledger Nano S Plus. I'm going to copy this address. Okay, so I've just given it a label so I know where it's coming from, and I've copied the address, the information I need to send to. Well, let's jump back to our ledger. Okay, so my ledger is here. I'm going to hit send. I'm going to paste in that address, and I'll double check it. Hit the tab. Looks exactly the same to me. Perfect. And where's it going to? Where am I sending to? Well, I'm sending to my tutorial wallet. How much do I want to send? I'm just going to send all of it out. I don't want it sitting in my ledger anymore, so I'm going to hit max. That sorts it all for me. And then finally, what is my fee? What am I looking to spend? I can slide it up and down. I wanted to confirm quickly, so I'll go for high priority. Looks around $1.42 or so, around 49 sats per byte. Great. And then just for your own information, just so you know, down below this little graph, it just kind of shows the flow of funds. If you're unfamiliar, every time you receive Bitcoin, it's actually more like receiving cash. So if somebody sent you 1 million sats and 5 million sats, you don't just have a 6 million sat balance. You actually have two distinct pieces of Bitcoin in your wallet, and you'd see it as 1 million and 5 million sats, as like a $1 bill and a $5 bill kind of thing. It's just showing that here. I have a single bill Most of it's going into the tutorial wallet, and then I'm paying my network fee right there. So it just shows that split. So something cool that you may not have seen in Ledger Live before. I should also note, you can just send directly out of Ledger Live into your wallet on Sparrow. That's totally fine too. I just wanted to give the example here. Great, so we put in all our information. Where's it going? What's the label? How much are we sending? What's our fee? We're gonna hit create transaction. We're gonna hit finalize for signing, and then we're gonna hit sign. Now, it gave me this error because my ledger locked because the pin timed out. So I'm just gonna put in the pin one more time. Okay, I am in, and I'm just gonna rescan. There we go. Okay, now I give the option, I have the option to sign. I'm gonna hit sign. And it's gonna bring up on my ledger, it's gonna say, and you'll be familiar with this, but it says review output number 1, which hopefully you can kind of see. I know it's kind of blinky. And it says the amount that I'm sending. What amount are you sending? And then it says the address that I'm sending it to. This will all be the same of what you experience with your ledger normally. And then it gives me the option as I scroll to the right to approve with both buttons. I'm going to do that now. And then it says confirm transaction. It shows me the fees that I'm sending, and it gives me the option to accept and send. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll bring up my screen as I do it. Accept and send, both buttons. Okay, and then we get this fancy little animation. It shows, hey, you just signed the transaction. Your ledger just approved it. It has not gone out yet. It just says, hey, you got that signature. We're ready to go. Now I can hit broadcast, and that's actually going to send it. And we should see a couple notifications pop out because we have 2 wallets open. We're going to see a notification saying transaction has been sent. And we're also going to see a notification saying transaction has arrived into our tutorial wallet or whatever wallet you're sending it to. All right, and there we see a couple different, there we go. All right, so we have, what are we looking at here? By the way, your transaction, just so you know, it is in a separate tab, which you can X out of when you start getting the notifications that it's been sent. So nonetheless, I've X'd out of that. Within Ledger, we see there's our transaction going out. You see minus 607,000 sats roughly. Our balance is now down to 0 up here. And there's a little circle here. That's actually a little pie. And as you get a confirmation on the Bitcoin blockchain, it will fill in part of the pie. After 6 confirmations, it will fully fill. But nonetheless, you know the transaction has gone out. And if I go over to the receiving wallet, my tutorial wallet, here's that transaction again, same thing, but it's coming in this time, and we see same amount, well, different amount because minus the fee that was used, and same little circle chart, and that will fill in, and once it confirms, then everything has gone to plan. Nonetheless, we know it's there, and we're self-transferring, so we're pretty much all set here. Once you've moved your funds out of the previous wallet and into a new one, at that point you are effectively safe from seizure if that was your concern. If you were worried about the idea of your private keys being out there and that somebody may be able to steal your funds, you've now moved them to a new set of keys that are now, as long as you've taken care of them, secure and will not be able to be obtained remotely by anyone. However, there could be issues around privacy. And so if you've been using proprietary software, there's a possibility that there's knowledge of all of your receiving addresses, all of your funds, everything that you own, how much you have, and furthermore, there's potential for them being tracked as you move them and then commingle them with other funds that you may have. If you want to get privacy, then there are a few things to consider. Number one, it's important to know that if you've already purchased from an exchange, meaning that you've used KYC information, you've given ID, all of that, you can't undo that. There's a record that somebody else holds that you have previously purchased Bitcoin. Okay? If you want to undo that, effectively you have to sell your Bitcoin and then purchase them again through other non-KYC means. However, if you want to move forward and get forward-facing privacy, meaning, let's say it's possible that somebody has a record of your previous addresses and the funds that you had, even if you've moved them to a new wallet in one fell swoop, that's pretty easy to track and then continue to track from there. If you want to break that link, and then let's say a wallet provider knows what you own, but also knows your addresses. If you want that track to stop, if you want that trail to stop completely, then you can Coinjoin. You can use Coinjoin, and you can actually do it from Sparrow Wallet. Well, I'm not going to go through all the steps here. I thought it would be good to get you familiar. And I also wanted to kind of show you the video that I'll be referring you to. So this is a video that I did, and it's called Using Whirlpool Coinjoin in Sparrow Wallet. Retain your Bitcoin privacy. And it walks you through all of the steps necessary to utilize this tool within Sparrow to actually break the link between where your coins were and where they continue to be moving forward. I will note that if you look at the interface here in this video, it's actually going to end up looking a little bit different in the current iteration of Sparrow Wallet. So I'll show you what I mean. Over on the left here, there's all those blue tabs that we were using before. And then on the right, there's these additional tabs. It now looks more like this. I'm going to show really quick. All the additional tabs are over here on the left. And each of these are individual wallets. And I'm going to try not to get too detailed here. If you want to go into Coinjoin, the link to this video will be down in the show notes below. But nonetheless, you're going to see 4 different distinct wallets here. And each time you click on one, they're going to have their own tabs of transactions, send, receive, depending on which wallet you're dealing with. You can switch between them. All right. That's all I'm going to say here. Slight update to the interface. But other than that, it's all going to be the same. And you can go through this and you can obtain forward-facing privacy. And as a matter of fact, this video will show you how to Coinjoin. It has to be a hot wallet. And it will show you how to Coinjoin and then automatically mix into your new hardware. So let's say you had your ledger, you have another wallet for Coinjoin, and then you have a final resting place of your Bitcoin for long-term savings, which might be a Coldcard on Sparrow. You can send from your ledger into your hot wallet for mixing, and then it will automatically mix into your Coldcard. All right, so you can go through this video. It will teach you all of those steps. And if you're worried about forward-facing privacy, this will happen in between moving from your ledger to your Coldcard or whatever device you've decided on. Don't forget, I have full tutorials down in the show notes. I'm going to include this one for the Ledger Nano S Plus just on desktop, just for the ability to be able to send out if that's something that you've forgotten or need to be reacquainted with. There's a full tutorial for Sparrow Wallet, and it goes through all of the details of how to use it and the various ways in which it can be used. I also included the Sparrow Wallet Whirlpool tutorial so that you can gain privacy if you're worried about that coming from your ledger or whatever other device that you were using. And then I've got a full tutorial on the Coldcard so that you can learn how to use that and use it alongside Sparrow Wallet too. So if you have any questions or comments about that, again, drop them down below. And hopefully all that material will get you through just fine. So I want to move into kind of this final section here, and it's going to be kind of a mix of what to look out for that is actually worth considering being worried about with hardware, or you know, when selecting hardware, and my recommendations in terms of what to look for and what you would want and what I like to use. So number one, you want to know if the device is open or closed source. And what I mean by that is, are there eyeballs on the code? Can people actually tell it's doing what it says it's doing? If the answer to that is no, then you're pretty much going in blind and you're just trusting the company that creates the software and hardware. And you know, that's kind of the antithesis of what Bitcoin is for. You know, there's an ethos: don't trust, verify. And even if you yourself can't audit the code, it is, in my opinion, important to know that somebody can. That somebody is looking at it and going, okay, I see how this works, and it's possible that they could point out something malicious in each new release. Because right now it's kind of like, all right, you know, in the latest announcement from Ledger, it's kind of like, all right, we built software that is capable of, you know, taking sensitive information and more or less uploading it to the cloud. And in this case, it could be your private keys, which are the keys to your money. Now, the way in which they've done it, it is supposed to be split between multiple companies, and you need 2 of the 3 pieces to. It's besides the point. If you don't like that, you want to make sure that your device is not doing that. And right now, at the time of recording this video, there's no way to check if that stuff is like already on there or not. Okay, so that's important. Number 2, I'd say, does your device have proprietary software that is required in order to initialize it or in order to update it? In other words, can you use the device without having to use the app created by the company at any point? I prefer this. I prefer a device that, if I choose to, I can start it up, I can set it up, and I can use it with a totally different app, and the company never even knows if I turned it on. That for me is ideal. Okay. Obviously, it goes without saying, given the video, but offering some sort of tracking or data collection or cloud storage of important information as a service, I realize it can be opt-in, but like that is something I am not interested in, and that I think it's completely reasonable that people are worried about if their device can do that. And at the very least, it should be opt-in, and you should be able to audit that your device hasn't opted in on your behalf. Cloud key backups, things like that. I think it's a slippery slope. I think it's dangerous. And I think that in a pinch, in a world where a government goes to a company and says, give us this information, otherwise your guys are going under, you know, you have to trust that the company will be altruistic in that situation. And you shouldn't have to. And then the other thing is, does using your device require KYC? Do you need to give up your personal information in order just to use the device and the features therein? If so, maybe don't. Anyways, those are kind of the things that you know should be at least like mini red flags or large red flags in your mind, and maybe things to avoid. Okay, so what are you looking for? What do you want out of a device? Well, basically the opposite of what I just said, in my opinion. I want to know that the code is open and people can audit and see it's doing what it says it's doing. I want something that I can set up without being required to use a particular app, and I don't want the company to even necessarily know that I've used it if I choose not to divulge that information. I want a device that's Bitcoin only because, again, with more complexity comes more attack vectors or potential attack vectors. And I also want a device, if possible, that's supported by multiple different third-party software vendors so that I have my choice and it's easy for me to hop from one to the other if I prefer the interface. Now, in terms of what I'm using Coldcard. I'm also using TapSigner for on-the-go stuff. And so, I mean, it's no secret that I'm sponsored by Coldcard, but what people also don't often know is that I pursued them. They did not pursue me. I went to them and said, hey, I use your stuff all the time, and I love it, and I would love it if you guys sponsored the show because I'm already using your stuff every waking moment. So, you know, take that for what it is. That's my preference. But I mean, I have everything here. I have all of the devices, and in trying many of them, this is what I've landed on. So take that for what it is. Make your own decisions. Consider the pieces that I said before in regards to what to look for, what not to look for, and test things out. Get feedback from other people. Don't just trust me out the gate. Make your own decisions. And yeah, and if anything ever goes sideways, you can still use this general format to migrate from any device to any new device. Yeah, so I'll leave that there. If you do want to grab a Coldcard or a TapSigner or anything from Coinjoin, again, those links are down below. It does help the show when you use them in the code BTC sessions, but you're in no way obligated to. And also, if Coinjoin ever does something shitty, then don't use them. I don't think that they will. You can audit the code and make sure that they don't. But nonetheless, the number one takeaway I want this video to give is that nobody should be beyond scrutiny, and we should always be able to vote with our wallets and our feet. And I hope that wallet providers and device manufacturers take it deeply into consideration when there's massive pushback to things that they would like to do as to why that is. And with that, we'll get more options, we'll get better security, and I think the whole ecosystem will be better for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do hit like, subscribe, share, all those things. They help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. I'd also love to hear your feedback in the comments down below. Let me know perhaps what you think about the Ledger debacle, but also let me know if you have preferences for hardware and what you think is best, and highlight it for other people as well. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors. That was HodlHodl, CoinKite, Nunchuk, Start9. You can also hit me up for private one-on-one sessions at my website, btcsessions.ca. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always tip me on the same website, btcsessions.ca. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a lightning QR code, and you can just scan and send there, or you can click. You can actually click on the QR code. It'll pop up my Geyser fund, and you can drop some sats there as well. It all goes to the same place. Either way, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
HodlHodl the Bitcoin.